Every Halloween comes around, and I end up watching Halloween. Now, anyone worth their salt favours John Carpenter's original version. But I don't judge myself based by condiments.
And cut! Let's go again.
You see, I'm a bit of a dumb schmuck. So, whilst I can see that John Carpenter's version is an interesting social commentary on what he thinks we should fear when we think of Halloween, he approaches Michael Myers from an almost religious aspect. In the same way that God defies explanation, Michael Myers is unexplainable, unfathomable evil. Why is God good? Because. The same logic is applied to Michael to explain his evil. He's a random killing machine without mercy or conscience. Rob Zombie's is incredibly clever because it takes the same basic story beats and repeats many scenes, but his version brings something entirely new to the table, and it's a completely fascinating game changer. His central premise is that Michael is not unexplainable, and Michael's evil does not just exist. Michael Myers is created. He is created by us and the environments in our society. But the bit that I find truly scary is that everything that Michael does makes perfect sense and is logical from a particular perspective. So allow me to propose this. Michael is the victim of Halloween. And I'm going to argue, get your rocks ready for this, he's actually an anti-hero. Just so you know, I'm going to be considering Rob Zombie's director's cut version. And I'm going to be spoiling it worse than Big Joe Grizzly's Long Johns. Zombie's Halloween takes the fact that by 2007, Michael Myers was almost like a real person in the mind of the audience. Audiences craved him, and so Zombie more or less created a biography. Zombie attempted to give the scientific explanation for Michael Myers. Michael is not a random senseless killer. His every action, his every kill makes sense and follows a pattern and rationale. Michael is the net effect of poor boundaries, poor communication, poor choices, and corrupted sexual energy in every interaction that he has. Michael is the victim of terrible but all too common circumstances. Michael is what happens when a 10-year-old boy is in a physically abusive household where the women in his life are overtly sexually expressive. His mum is a stripper and he loves her, but he resents the fact that the sexual nature of her work takes her away from him. His older sister is mocking and belittling of him, is not kind to him, and again prioritizes sexual activity over familial obligation. His stepfather is abusive physically, verbally, and psychologically. His home life leaves him feeling no control because of his abusive stepfather who dominates him and belittles him sexually. And he finds sanctuary in his room where he can exercise the ultimate control of life and death over things that are smaller and weaker than him. With his level of repressed anger from his environment, this leads him to torture and kill animals he has no attachment to, but this then moves to the killing of adored pets. He's mocked at school for both his mum and sister's sexual activity, and his coping mechanism to this becomes violence. The clown's mask he wears is not just a Halloween mask. Michael is hiding his identity behind that barrier to protect himself. It gives him a necessary distance because he feels that the world is hurting him continually at the level of his identity, who he is, and he feels vulnerable. The mask offers protection for him. As a deeply unhappy boy, a clown's mask gives the best representation of everything he wants to be. Happy, joyful, and fun-giving. It's the image that he wishes he could portray genuinely, but can't because of how he feels. He resorts to a face covering to represent it. He speaks to Elvis, his male pet rat, and calls him pretty. He talks to his rat with love and affection as a parent would to a child, but ultimately kills Elvis with a penknife. He has a strong, loving, affectionate bond with Angel, or as he calls her, Boo, his baby sister, again, parent-child. Does he wrestle with the same thoughts of Boo meeting Elvis's fate? However, as Boo also witnesses and reacts to all of the trauma in the house, but from the vantage point of a baby, perhaps that differentiates her from Elvis and aligns her with Michael. His elder sister, Judith, openly competes sexually with his mum and comments that his mother has had an abortion. Perhaps as a child of hers, Michael has absorbed the lesson that it's acceptable to kill, even those that you love, as a way of dealing with problems and inconveniences. Now, I'm not commenting on the morality of abortion or saying that women having abortions create psychopaths. I'm just saying Zombie is giving us the building blocks to his psyche that might well be able to add up to create what we know to be Michael Myers. And sex and sexuality is used without boundary to insult, mock, threaten, diminish, profit from, and control. The stepfather is sexually aggressive to his wife and sexually suggestive to and about his older sister. Judith mocks Michael for masturbating behind closed doors just after he's killed his beloved pet in the privacy of his bedroom. Sex and violence are presented hand in hand in this household. And Michael repeats, he's not listening. He's already closed off to the input side of communication. His mum's solution to the death of his rat is sympathy, kindness, and replacement. Now, while she isn't aware at this stage of Michael's proclivities, her emotional kindness and solution-based thinking to his killing is setting a pattern. Things die. Mum will still love you. His sister mocks him for killing his rat through sex, yet again fusing the concept of sex and death. His stepfather has given him the clear message that you solve your hatred with violence, and threatening to skull-fuck his mother entwines sex and violence. All of this means that Michael is traumatized by his home environment. And this is just a normal school morning. His school day is a continuation of violent interactions, familial sexual humiliation about his elder sister, which he absorbs, but the mention of his mother's sexual antics triggers the violent response. Although the principal, the disciplinarian and boundary surrogate for the police later, actually saves Michael, he responds with anger and insult rather than communication that he is the victim. But the principal's response sends a clear message. Speaking honestly how you feel to authority means you're judged as the perpetrator. Michael then observes his beloved mother's disdain, insult and dismissal of the authority figure in the principal, who has control over his school life, again reinforcing the pattern of no respect for authority. And then, the entrance of the psychologist. We judge the victim in horror films by the one who runs, the one whose flight response is triggered. The triggerer is the perpetrator. In this case, the psychologist triggers Michael's flight response. It is the only and last time that we see Michael run in fear. But he decides to take action and do something about his situation. His first human kill is directly after his flight response. Amped up on adrenaline, Michael is not an emotionless, cold, calculated killer. He's a traumatized child threatened with death from an older, bigger bully who fights back. He lacks empathy for the bully in the same way a soldier lacks empathy for the enemy. His home life has told him that killing is not something out of bounds. His stepfather has told him that violence is perfectly acceptable to someone you hate. Is it surprising that his feeling is that of control and victory, and that the solution to the problem this person presents is death? Taking that sexual clipping back of his mother, which is his trigger to anger, gives him the emotional energy to kill. It seems to me that Michael, who represses his sexual energy that he feels towards his mother, learns at that moment to channel it into his first murderous act of a human, and he tosses the weapon away in a gesture to assert his dominance. As if to say, there you go. It's either that, or he's acting as a valiant gladiator who is killed to protect his mother's honor. What was the inciting incident that pushed Michael down this path? This is pure speculation because we're not given one, but I wonder if the key actually lies with Michael's real father, who we know died. Judith speaks of him being in heaven. The childlike way she refers to heaven means that he died when she was a child, and she believes him to have been a good man. Hence, heaven, not hell. Michael would have been very young. That initial trauma marks the downward spiral degradation of their lives afterwards. His mum needs to work as a stripper to support them. The terrible choice of her new partner. The elder sister's need to find solace in male sexual attention. Interestingly, his mother shares the information about Michael's animal killing with his stepfather, even though she knows how unhelpful and antagonistic the stepfather is. His stepfather thus ridicules him and sexually belittles him for killing animals. The message is clear. Real men, sexually dominant men like the kind that his mum is attracted to and attracts nightly, kill more than just animals. Ronnie was never going to be a viable co-parent or sounding board for this issue, and yet overall, his mum shows an unnaturally low level of concern for Michael's animal killing. Her permissive attitude, procrastinating with her boundaries, saying things will change tomorrow, but telling him to live it up tonight, reinforces the lack of immediate consequences to actions. His mum then chooses to service these sexually driven types of men rather than take Michael trick-or-treating, and moves that responsibility to his elder sister Judith. It must be very confusing for Michael to be aware of his mum's physical appearance as he comments on her hair looking pretty, but know that attractiveness is a source of his humiliation and inadequacy because she chooses them over him. As Mrs. Myers leaves, she meets Judith's boyfriend, a sexually driven type, and her disdainful tone and displeasure at the sex she knows they're having informs Michael on her view of Judith's activities. Michael is then instantly abandoned. His mum and sister have both left to engage in sexual activity. He is criticized for being too old for trick-or-treating, and may well be, but he's in fact simultaneously too young and too confused to engage in similar sexual activity to his mum and sister. He needs a release to the pent-up, frustrated sexual energy, a balm to his battered self-esteem, an act that will boost his confidence and will provide retributive justice to the slights he has felt. There is one quick, easy and effective solution to all his problems that he can exact tonight on Halloween to take ownership and sculpt the better tomorrow his mum has promised. Killing his stepfather, Judith and her boyfriend. His experience has told him that you can solve problems with killing. His mum did it. He's already done it. This is just an extension of that principle. The experience of visiting strangers alone in Haddonfield and getting treats has not satisfied him. Amped up on sugary candy, he decides to give a trick to those around him who have not given him a treat. The stepfather is first. He's already immobile, but Michael completely immobilizes him to make him utterly helpless and to ensure that he has complete dominance. He's taped his mouth so he doesn't have to hear any more abuse. He slits his throat because he can then observe his eyes and he's in the most dominant position of standing by his head. In removing the mask after the kill, he wants Ronnie to know this is personal. He doesn't need the protection now with Ronnie that the mask has afforded him. After death, he can face Ronnie on these terms. The boyfriend is next. Here, We hear the rage. The boyfriend wasn't unkind to him, but the boyfriend represents the male sexual energy that he can't cope with or control and causes his mother's nightly abandonment, and specifically this Halloween's abandonment. But this might be tapping into that primal rage that Michael has felt from being abandoned when his father died. The boyfriend represents success in the area that Michael feels the deepest hurt about: sex. He feels this hurt because his mum, his nurturing, kind energy, has a sexual job that doubles his abandonment. If he expresses his sexuality, it will mean that he has to accept that he has those feelings for his mother. So he's repressed them, kept them as innocent as possible, but the lack of understanding and release of them effectively has meant that he's rechanneled them into murder. This time, he just drops the bat. It's as if he's actually a little surprised at what he's done. There isn't the victory in this kill because the boyfriend was a symbol to be destroyed, not a person to be punished. Finally, he goes to Judith's room. She lies there post-coitus. He changes the mask, possibly because in that moment, the blank, emotionless face represents what he wants to project to the world. Possibly because this is his moment of puberty, where he goes from the childlike face of a happy clown to an adult, manly, expressionless visage. He touches her sensually, teasingly. Then when she realizes it's her brother, she becomes physically abusive. As sex and violence are so intertwined in his mind, he stabs her. He then lets her get up and stagger away. He watches her, observes her flight. Her slow flight means he can slowly chase her. It's a predator-prey response. He cuts at her with a knife, reducing her in the same way she cut at him with her words. He watches her lay on the floor and die. We don't see him butcher her, but we're told that she was stabbed 17 times. Ronnie was also stabbed numerous times, so we can assume he went back to Ronnie and Judith and stabbed them again. I can only assume that he does this because in the same way he found the candy ultimately unsatisfying, the taking of their lives did not satiate him, so he tries to desecrate them after death to regain that feeling. As he approaches his baby sister, he kisses her and says, "Happy Halloween, boo." He is happy and at peace. He has solved all his problems. He has gotten rid of his stepfather, has destroyed the symbol of sexual male prowess in the house, and he has had his version of a sexual encounter with his sister. Tomorrow will indeed be better. Michael waits for his mother on the stoop as she arrives home from work. They can now be the perfect family. But his mum's reaction is not what he expects. She's been so laid back about his killing to this point. How could he have predicted her grief? He looks away, troubled, saddened, and confused by his mother's reaction.